For the first time in about 3 weeks, Ella Hestan and Will Turboff back here on the VYPE podcast for episode number 31. It's week 10. It's a huge week in the Houston area. Some district deciding matchups. And Ella, we have missed a crazy few weeks in 6A16, haven't we?
Absolutely. There have been some insane upsets that we've missed, and we're going to talk about a couple of them, and it's going to be a great podcast, but we missed a lot, and it was really a bad couple of weeks to take off because there are some real great games going on.
Yeah, we're back stronger than ever, though. Earlier on in the year, we had a segment where we said that Bridgeland was probably the foregone winner of that district, that they weren't going to have much competition, and maybe Langham Creek or Cy Park would come in and maybe challenge them. Well, they've lost 2 games already, and they still have a couple more left to go. Connor Wigman was out. They lost a game to Cy Ranch, and then they came in as the underdogs against Cy Park in a game that they got dominated in. And the week after that game, that was last week, Cy Park lost to Cy Woods. So that was one of the best games of the year. It wasn't exactly the blowout that we saw between Cy Park and Bridgeland, but nonetheless, now no team in that district is undefeated. Cy Park and Cy Ranch are 4-1. Bridgeland, Cy Woods, and Langham Creek are all at 3-2. Who do you think the favorite in this district should be, Ella?
After the performances that Cy Park and Cy Ranch had against Bridgeland, I think they're definitely the top 2 right now. Cy Woods should definitely be commended on the upset against Cy Park. Like, that was absolutely incredible. No one expected that, I don't think. And it's a toss-up because I feel like at the beginning, when you talk about the beginning of the season, Bridgeland was the shoe-in, and now they're not necessarily. They're still a great team, and great teams lose games still. But Cy Park and Cy Ranch are a couple of great teams that have deep playoff potential now, and they've gained a lot of experience. So I think those 2 are definitely the ones to keep the eye on. But Cy Woods and Langham Creek could come up behind them and steal a spot away.
I mentioned 5 teams: Cy Park, Cy Ranch, Bridgeland, Cy Woods, and Langham Creek. Newsflash, only 4 teams make the playoffs. So there's a chance. I'm not exactly sure who Bridgeland has in the next couple weeks. I believe they've already played Langham Creek. I'm not so sure about the other teams, but one of those 3 teams will not make the playoffs unless Cy Park or Cy Ranch just falls off a cliff. They play each other this week. So in just a few minutes, the 2 of us are going to have to decide who's going to win that one. And another team who we have kind of shifted on this year is North Shore. Early in the year, in an out-of-district schedule, they lost to Westfield. Everyone was saying, oh, is this, the end of North Shore as we know it? Are they not the dominant team that we know? Well, look what they've done in district play. They're outscoring their opponents 230-29, and they routed a really good CE King team, a team that we thought maybe would challenge them for the district title. That game was a blowout. Did the whole community, us included, did we overreact to that out-of-district loss to Westfield?
Absolutely. I think I said it when the loss happened, that their one loss isn't going to define the rest of their season. And I said that from the beginning, and I think that was absolutely true because they're just running over their district. They're the leaders by a landslide, and they're going to lose games throughout the years. Just because they're North Shore and seen as this championship team doesn't mean they're invincible. Same thing with Katy. Like, Katy's not invincible either. Every team is beatable, and Westfield just got the upper hand on this great North Shore team. And I think it'd be interesting to see if that game is replayed, what would happen then, because I don't think that North Shore's affected at all by that loss. If anything, it's going to push them to do even better. And everyone overreacted when they lost that game because football is a sport, and you're always going to lose games. There's never an absolutely perfect team throughout several different years, and North Shore's just coming back from it, and they're doing great, and they're going to head into the playoffs strong, and they've got a chance to see a state championship again this year. And absolutely, everyone overreacted because they're doing just fine.
North Shore kind of referenced that out-of-district schedule as something that some people may not like. They call it a preseason. They call it their feeling out games. They didn't even know who their quarterback was at the beginning of the season. And even to this point, they're trying people out. They're beating people by 50, 60 points, and they don't really know who they want as their quarterback going into the playoffs. That's ridiculous. They didn't have Chris Ross. They didn't have Denver Harris. So this is a stacked team at just about every position. But they've got a huge game this week, and that's another one that we'll talk a little bit later on. Two teams that we really didn't see coming in as undefeated at this week 10 now, Stratford and Jersey Village out of the same district, 6A17. Earlier on this year, we noted that this district might be wide open. Cy Fair had some losses. Cy Creek had some losses. Those were two really talented teams last year. So now Stratford and Jersey Village kind of being seen as the big boys in that district. Will either of those teams or both of them be successful in the playoffs, Ella?
I think they'll both definitely make it through the first round because I believe they're up against Houston ISD schools. But that second round is going to be tough because you have, however it finishes, because they play this week, I believe, however that finishes, one of them is going to end up playing that Fort Bend district with Bridgepoint, and the other is going to end up playing the Katy district. So I feel like they both might fall there. But I think they get past the first round. They might surprise people, make it past the second. But I think that might be where it caps off. I don't know. I feel like they haven't seen as much action and tough games as the rest of these strong 6A teams that are front runners heading into the playoffs. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how they continue. But I think they make past the first round and they play hard in the second. You might see them pass the second, but it'll be weird to see. But yeah, they've got a chance and they can be strong, but that's where they're going to end up standing.
It'll be weird. And once we get enrollment numbers at the end of the year, once we find out who's going D1, who's going D2, the loser of this Stratford Jersey Village game might actually be the winner, depending on how things work out, because, D2 could be easier. D1 could be easier. Very likely that D2 will. And people are even saying a team that we talked about earlier on, Cy Park, may be the favorite in that now. So teams that we didn't even think about as contenders or, playoff hopefuls in the beginning of the year are coming out as state contenders. And now we head to 5A. 5A D1 10 has been kind of crazy. Ella, you've covered this district. We've got Peyto, we've got Manville, we've got Hightower. You were at the Manville Hightower game. So then it looked like Hightower was going to be the big dogs in that district. But then Peyto comes out and demolishes them last week. Who do you think the best team in this district is?
I honestly don't know. Seeing Manville and Hightower play, it was a very great game because it was low scoring, and that just shows the strong defensive efforts. But you've got, obviously, Hightower is now either going to be second or there's going to be a three-way tie. Because if Manville wins this game on Friday, there's a three-way tie for first with all of them having one loss. And that is going to be a very exciting finish to the district. But right now, if Peyto wins, they're in first, Hightower second, Manville's third. Manville, coming into this game on Friday, they've got some very strong players. Caden Smith knows how to hand it off to his running backs. DeMonte Seymour has over 1,000 yards this season, and Ty Harris is close behind. Manville's, they call it their stable, is very stacked. They've got strength on their running backs, and that's how they score the majority of their points. And then you have Justin Medlock on defense and Colin Wright. They are a stacked team that also fell to a very stacked Hightower team. Hightower was not to be underestimated. But then you have Peyto, who not necessarily came out of nowhere, but I think everyone kind of saw Manville and Hightower as some of the front runners in this district, and Peyto was going to come up behind them. But Peyto's got CJ Dumas at quarterback and Cole Wilson at wide receiver, and then Demirian Phillips and Jacob Brown at running back. These are some very big names for that team and big players who make a lot of the yardage for Peyto, and it's gonna be interesting to see how Manville's defense handles those big offensive players and how Peyto's defense handles the strong rushing game from Manville. And I think I'm gonna try and go to this game and see how this pans out because I'm very interested to see who the winner of this district is gonna end up being.
Yeah, you'd have to think that a team that plays all these tough district games. Angleton's in that district. It's Foster's there. It's really great. So you'd have to think that whoever wins it, and maybe even the second team, will be some of the favorites in the 5A D1 battle. But I saw Manville last week. They look tough. And another storyline, which we'll get later on. I know we shouldn't be talking realignment in late October, but Pato is likely headed for 6A. So they're gearing up. They had playoffs taken away from them last year due to COVID. So that's a motivated team. I know Manville has been extremely motivated after that loss. And you got to think Hightower after losing by that much. But this is a district, like you said, with one team, with three teams having one loss, could turn into a point differential, I believe, with the three-way tie. So definitely something to look out for. And Ella, I believe with the playoffs right ahead of us, you have some volleyball news.
Yes, as district comes to a close for 6A and 5A, we have the big names that have already sealed their spots in the playoffs. And in 6A, you've got the big names Dawson, Bridgepoint, Clear Creek actually came ahead of Clear Springs, which I think a lot of people underestimated that Clear Creek team. And you've got on the other side of Houston, Cy Ranch and Klein are right up there too. And all five of those teams have a good shot at making it to the state tournament. I think the majority of them can make it to the regional tournament, but I think one of those five teams that I just listed may be our state champions this year. And then on 5A, you've got Barbers Hill, Manville, and Fulshire. They're the three teams in the Houston area just absolutely dominating right now. And they've already secured their spots in the playoffs. They're ready to go. And I think all three of those teams are going to make it very far in 5A. Fulshire might have a third consecutive state appearance. I think that they can do it. And that's the volleyball news I've got. Playoffs start next week, so I'll keep you updated as the weeks go on.
Well, you've got to think, although you didn't list them, Shadow Creek should be a state favorite with Ella on the team. So we'll keep you updated every single week now that we're getting closer and closer to playoffs. Ahead of a huge game against Stratford this Saturday, I am joined by Jersey Village quarterback Adam Tran. Adam, welcome.
Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And most of our viewers don't know that the two of us actually have spoken before. A few months ago when Jersey Village baseball was almost on its way to a state championship run, we got a chance to talk. You were on that team, and we'll get a little bit of an opportunity to talk about that later on. But right now, you're playing on one of the few undefeated teams in all of 6A, and you're the quarterback. How does that feel? You're a sophomore. There's not many sophomores in the entire country that are quarterbacking undefeated teams. So what does that mean to you?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it feels great. It's been a long time coming, but I mean, got to give it to the team, give the credit to the team, give credit to our coaches. We've all bought in. We've all bought into the process. And we're just locked in right now, focused up, and we're ready to do it. We're ready for anything. We're ready for this big game this week.
Yeah, and it didn't start this year. You said it's a long time coming. Last year, you got an opportunity to come in to a team that made the playoffs. You got some playoff experience. How do you think that helped you coming into this year?
Gave me a lot of reps. It let me experience some big games, big moments against some tough teams. And now when we're coming into a game like this with this great team, I mean, I'm prepared for it. I know this team is prepared for it because we've been in a big situation like this.
So you guys make a little bit of a playoff run, and then the season's over. So take me through from that game all the way until week 1 of this season. What was your entire off season like?
Off season, I wouldn't even really call it an off season. Because right after that, we jumped into baseball season, which was a crazy season. Started off slow, ended up going up to the 5th round of playoffs, losing to Straight Jesuit, but I mean, making a historic run for the baseball program. And right after that, it was right into the summer, and it was back to work for football. We were all bought in. We went through the off season during the school and during the spring, and now it's summertime. We were all bought in, and we came to week 1, and we were just ready to play, ready to go.
Well, like you said, you've been playing basically nonstop for quite a while now your whole high school career. What did you take from being on such a successful baseball team, just week after week. You got to keep grinding. What did you take from being on that team and take it to the football field?
It's what we have this new term in football right now called agape, meaning unconditional love for brothers. And this is a team right now that just loves each other, and that's how baseball was. We wouldn't get this far and be this successful if we weren't loving each other, laying it down for each other, and going to work every day for each other. I mean, we're all bought in. We're working for each other, and that's really what it is. We have each other's backs. We know when one person is struggling, another person can pick them up, and that's what we're on right now.
Well, there's been a lot of picking up for you guys this year in football. Like I said, undefeated. And it seems like you guys have relied on the rushing game in some of these games. You have over 1,100 yards on the season, but in a few games, I've looked at the box scores, over 100 yards rushing total for guys on the team. How do you handle that? You know, not always being the star of the show, but sometimes just handing it off and letting guys work down there.
You know, we have some great running backs, Ray Sean, Quentin Jones, Xavier Joyce, and then we even put sometimes Brandon Fan and Isaac Pedraza in the backfield, and they just go to work. I mean, you know, sometimes passing game isn't always going to be open, but when it's not open, we know our line is going to block, and we're going to have some running backs that are going to run the ball hard and get the yards we need and win the game.
Absolutely. And everyone was on it in your last game, 55-3 against Spring Woods. Going into such a big game against Stratford, what did that mean to just get every 55 points in a game? How do you think that's helped you in the last few days?
I mean, we worked on what we needed to work on. We were working on ourselves, making sure we were getting stuff right that week. So we're coming in the week like this, we're just fixing the little things, and now we're prepared. We're locked in from every day of practice now. And that game really has helped us. It was just helping us fixing the little things.
And not only do you get such a great win in your last game, but you get an extra day this week. You're playing on Saturday afternoon. How do you think that extra day helps you? How do you think it's helped in practice the last few days? Maybe pacing is a little bit different.
Yeah, we're actually on the same schedule we usually are. Just another day, one extra day of practice, and that extra day is going to help us a lot because I mean that's 2 more hours, 3 more hours of getting more work in and making sure you have everything right. Because you know we got to play our best game for a big game like this. Everybody has to be on the right stuff.
I've got one more question for you. Based on what you've seen in scouting the last few days, why do you think this Jersey Village team should be the favorite against Stratford? And this is not only a game, you know, maybe the biggest of the regular seasons, but maybe will kind of propel you into what could be a historic playoff run. So why do you think Jersey Village has the advantage here?
You know, I mean, we're an all-around team. Our defense is amazing, making plays all the time. Our offense is great. Our passing game is good. Our rushing game is good. And I mean, if we play our game, and with our scheme our coaches got going for us, I feel like nobody can beat us.
Well, nobody's beat you so far. You're bought in this season. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. You've had a busy week. You've got a great big game on Saturday, so we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I mentioned that this was a huge week for district deciding matchups in the Houston area. So let's go ahead and start off. We have 5 of them, and all 5 are huge. Stratford and Jersey Village. Who are you taking?
You know, I honestly am not 100% sure. This is a very big game for this district. This is a very big game leading into playoffs. And these are both great teams, undefeated. So it's definitely a toss-up. But I think I might go with Stratford. You know, after missing out on the playoffs last year, they're very hungry for that win, and securing a district championship would be great for them. But Jersey Village is not going to make it easy for them. This is going to be a great game, but I think Stratford might pull it out.
Yeah, I think experience is the main thing right here. On one side, you have Jersey Village. Their quarterback is a sophomore. He's a dual sport athlete. He's a great guy, Adam Tran. But it's a very young team, and I think they had a pretty easy out-of-district schedule, if I'm not mistaken. And they've kind of rolled through these teams. They have had some impressive wins, so I don't want to take anything away from them. On the other side, you've got the coach's son as the quarterback, Rankin as Stratford's quarterback. Hawkins Poly is just a menace at tight end. I think the Stratford team is really special. I don't think really anyone saw it coming, like we've said. I think they're going to win this game, and they may be that up and coming program. They've been waiting to come back for years and years, and this may be the year that finally jumpstarts them up to that level. How about Pato and Manville?
I'm going to have to take Manville here. I want to see this three-way tie happen. I think it'd be very interesting. Manville's a very strong team. You know, I mentioned earlier with DeMonte Seymour and Justin Medlock, they're a great, strong team. And I've seen them play. I'm excited to continue to see them play. But Pato's also not going to make it easy. It's going to be a great game. I think it'll be close and be very defensively dominated. But Manville, I'm taking the Mavericks.
Well, we're split on one pretty early on because I'm going to take Pato. I think when you beat a team that beat Manville 48-7 or whatever the final score was, something like that, it was a lot to not a lot. I think Pato's hot. Like I said earlier on, I think they're motivated because they didn't get to play in the playoffs last year because of COVID. And I think they're going to win this game, head into the playoffs undefeated. So Manville goes in as third, which no one saw coming. How about Cy Park and Cy Woods?
I think I'm going to go with Cy Park here. They're a great leader in that district. They are going to head off to the playoffs, and I think that they've secured their spot here by beating Cy Woods and taking all that energy from that win into the playoffs.
I'll also go with Cy Park. I think Harold Perkins might just be the best overall athlete in all of Texas right now. He's being recruited as a linebacker. In fact, he's the best linebacker in the country. But he goes out there and plays on offense for Cy Park. I think they win this game. And I think a lot of people have been saying it, and it's really bold to say earlier on. But Cy Park may be a favorite, whether they go D2 or D1. They're going to be pretty high up there for D2. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, Pearland and Shadow Creek.
I don't think you'll be shocked to hear that I'm going to go with my Creek boys. They are currently undefeated in district. There have been very few games that have been that close. And I think that Shadow Creek is going to pull this one out against Pearland. Jake Sock is a great quarterback for Pearland, and they're a great team. But I like my Creek boys better with Duke Butler and our great defense with DeJuan Lewis and Josh Diaz. I like Shadow Creek for this one. It'll be a great game, but I like Shadow Creek.
You're going to hate me, Ella. You're going to hate me because I'm actually taking Pearland. What I've seen this year is that Shadow Creek's defense is amazing, but sometimes they kind of let up, and they've let up late in games and they end up giving up, 21, 28, something like that. I think this Pearland team is really explosive. They've got better as the year went on. People were scared about them early on. They've looked good. Jake Sock, I'm glad you mentioned him. It feels like we've been watching him forever, because he goes out there every single week. He may not have the flashiest stat line, but he's an incredible game manager. A college program would be lucky to have him. I'm not surprised. I mean, I am surprised that he's not being recruited as much as I think he should be. I'm taking Pearland in this game, and after all, I think they win the district, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like my boys over there at Straight Jazz were going to even make it to the playoffs. But what did we talk about in that first episode, Ella? That this district was weird, and that there was going to be a dark horse team. And Ella, who has that dark horse team been?
Ooh, A-Leaf Taylor has been the dark horse. I think right now they're set up to get fourth in this district, which did not happen last year. I don't know the last time that Taylor's been to the playoffs, and they came out of nowhere. They're causing trouble for these teams, and I think that they make the playoffs. While I am a little hopeful for Alvin, but I think that ship's going to sail. But they have Strike this week, and I think that's going to be a good game. But yeah, A-Leaf Taylor's been the dark horse in that district. It's been impressive to see them play, and I actually got a little nervous when we played them because they just came out guns blazing, But it's been a great district, and it definitely has been a weird one.
Yeah, it has. And we can't do this podcast every week without having one tangent in the middle of our picks about 6A23, because we talked about it week one, and now we're all the way here, months later, talking about how it's ended up. We weren't so right about Hastings, That was another dark horse team. Unfortunately, they haven't panned out. But Alvin, you told me that Alvin team was good, and I'm a little scared about them against Drake this week. So we've got one more: Atascocita and North Shore.
Atascocita was a very big deal after they beat Allen, and they're still a great team. But I am one to say that you don't judge them on one game, but it was very interesting to see them go against Summer Creek and win in overtime. And for that one reason, I feel like even though they're in a fantastic team, this is North Shore we're talking about, who is just running over everyone in the district. I do think Atascocita is going to put up more points than the rest of their district teams, but North Shore's got this one in the bag, I think. And they're going to secure their first place and head off into playoffs, and Atascocita is going to sit in second.
I'll agree with you there. 8 weeks ago, I would have said there's no way, because Atascocita not only beat Allen, but went up to Denton. They traveled again, and they almost beat Geyer. Allen and Geyer are two teams that are probably going to be playing late November, early in December. They beat a Klein Oak team that looked really good in preseason. But I've talked to some people, and they say this is kind of the cycle with Atascocita, that they often, look really good in preseason and have that game that shows a few of their weaknesses. And Gavin Session has been hurt. That's another thing. So this team is dealing with some injuries. They're really talented either way. I think they dropped this game, but I'm assuming they finish in second and still make a deep run in the playoffs. Well, we were split for a couple of those. We had the same decision for a few more. So next week, we'll have to see which ones we got right, which ones we got wrong. And that'll do it for episode number 31 of the VYPEU podcast. For Ella Heston, I am Will Turboff. We'll see you soon.